Hey, Teddy Gay here for the Best Buy blog. In this video review, we'll look at the Fitbit Sense 2, Fitbit's latest flagship smartwatch that maintains its focus but also has notable omissions. The Fitbit Sense 2 is, by its name, a sequel, but it's like a sequel with different actors and with plot threads that don't really match the first one, which I'm going to explain as we go along here because there are things about this device that are different from its predecessor. If you're following what Fitbit is doing these days, you'll notice that there are some divergences. So, for example, the Sense is more focused on health, whereas the Versa line is a little more focused on fitness and working out. You can still do a lot of the same things with both watches, but where I think the biggest difference is not really between those two, it's actually between the Sense 2 and the previous Sense. The reason why I say that is because of what is missing here, not so much what is here. On paper, you look at the Sense 2 and you're thinking, okay, well, there's a lot there, right? I mean, you have the ECG, works right out of the box, in Canada especially, no problem. You got an EDA sensor, so you got skin temperature readings, no problem, that works out of the box. SpO2 for blood oxygen, so you have the pulse oximeter in there, which is great. You also have you have built-in GPS, and you've got military-grade protection, which allows you to use this when you're swimming or going in any kind of water. Did I miss anything there? No, I don't know that I did. Oh, wait, that's right. All those sensors that I mentioned give you things like stress management scores, all kinds of other assessments that kind of give you some insight into where you're at health-wise. All of that is great, but there is one key element here that has to be mentioned, which is the fact that the previous Sense came out at a time when Google had not acquired Fitbit. But now that Google has Fitbit under its umbrella, you notice that the software looks different. It looks very much like a Pixel watch. That's by design, of course, it's not an accident, and it comes with some consequences. Primarily, what it is that's missing, which is, for example, some of the third-party apps that you're used to using in the Sense or that you could previously use on other Fitbit smartwatches are notably missing here. I love the Spotify integration, for example, that the previous Sense had. It worked really, really well. Unfortunately, that is gone. So is, like, if you're a Starbucks fan and you're using that app to get your morning latte or whatever it was you were getting, you will not be able to do that with the watch either. You can still pay for it, mind you. Google Wallet is integrated in the watch, but you can't use the Starbucks app to do it. I used to control my smart home lights, like my Philips Hue lights, with the watch as well. Can't do that anymore either. Google Assistant, nowhere to be found. Alexa is your only option for voice. Essentially anything that you could do that was outside of Fitbit's, I guess, auspices is missing. It's just gone. And there's no guarantee that it's going to be coming in because Fitbit has been very non-committal in saying whether or not third-party apps are coming. All they've said so far, and I inquired about this too, all they've said is that it's just not there right now. If you were to ask me, I don't think it's coming at all. And the reason I say that is because the Sense 2, in a sense, is kind of competing with the Pixel Watch. Both are smartwatches, but they have sort of singular focuses, if you will. Like the Pixel Watch to me, as I noted in my review when I reviewed that, is kind of like an every person's watch. The Sense 2 really hones in on that health and wellness element, and it does it pretty well. But again, there are caveats to that too. For example, if you want all the features that the Sense 2 can give you as far as like managing your stress, learning more about your health and wellness, generally speaking, you're going to need a premium account. So you're going to subscribe to Fitbit Premium, and that way you'll be able to get more of that info. Without the premium account, you get very basic input. You don't get much in the way of context. Not that there's a ton of that anyway, but you're missing a lot of those extra things that kind of plug in to give you a bit more of a holistic view of what's going on. So on the one hand, you've got a watch that is missing third-party apps and other integrations, and on the other hand, it is also tied very heavily to a premium subscription that I think you need to go with if you're going to go with this watch as well. The watch also doesn't have built-in Wi-Fi, so if I want to update it, I got to do it over Bluetooth. I can't, Wi-Fi was really good, I felt, for music, especially for music, but because I can't put any music on the watch, I can't really do anything with the Wi-Fi either. I just wish that the Wi-Fi would have been there more so for adding updates a lot faster than they generally do right now through the Fitbit app. But again, since Fitbit has neutered the Sense 2 in so many ways when it comes to all the ancillary things that you can do, I guess it shouldn't come as a surprise.
So I had to then focus on the health and wellness side just to kind of see if there's a justification here for using this watch primarily for those reasons. Now, don't get me wrong, you can still work out with this. It'll do all the other exercises. There's 40 plus exercises. If you've seen a Pixel Watch, you will notice right away that the interface and the options are very, very similar, if not exactly the same. So if you want to run, if you want to hike, you want to do yoga, some kind of training, cross training, whatever it is, those options are available and they work fairly well, with the tracking being pretty decent too. Now the GPS is a little finicky. It's not quite as accurate as I'd say like a Garmin watch is, but that's not a surprise. Garmin is to me a leader in that category. But it would have been nice to see a little more accuracy that way. So if you are running and you want to make sure that your route is being tracked the right way, you might find that there's some deviations there. Now, when it comes to health tracking, so there is something called a body response sensor here, which is kind of collecting data from the other sensors and giving you a body response score, kind of giving you an indication of whether you're ready for what it is that you have planned for the next day. It's pretty cool and I like it. I mean, it's sort of to me, it's like an augmentation of the stress management score. So you can take, of course, you can sort of log in how you're feeling, which is good and bad in the sense that there's no way for the watch to know how you're feeling unless you tell it how you're feeling. But even then, sometimes the context is missing. So it might notice that, hey, your heart rate's a little elevated more than usual. What's going on? Are you feeling calm? Are you feeling cool? Are you frustrated? Now you can tell the watch, but in some cases it doesn't know. Like it can read that you're I don't know, something is spiking, but it doesn't tell you why. That can lead to some confusion as to what the data then tells you after. I feel like Fitbit is going to probably streamline this in some way so that the data makes more sense, at least when you look at it empirically. But for now, it does require a lot of manual input in order for you to get the sort of holistic data you're looking for. I had no real issue with the health sensors. I mean, the heart rate monitor is really good. The sleep tracking is excellent. And I did appreciate the stress management score and things like that too. I feel like those are continually getting better. But then I run into the problem of, well, okay, all that is great, but what am I giving up to get all that? I mean, even the ECG is nice too, and it works quite well. Again, this is not to replace a medical device. It's more like an early warning system. If something is off, the watch could sort of, you do a reading, the watch can kind of tell you, hey, something's off here. You can also see your SpO2 readings if something is low. I mean, if you're below 95% and it's lower than that consistently, maybe something's off too. So the watch, in a sense, like a lot of smartwatches that have health features, is like an early warning system. But again, what I'm puzzled by is why certain features that would be related to that are also gone too. For example, even though there's a microphone on the Sense 2, it does not check for any snoring. So there's no snoring detection while you're sleeping, which was a really cool feature that was available in the previous watch and for some reason is missing here. Why? Nobody knows. Fitbit isn't saying. So if you're looking to wear this and looking to track kind of how you're snoring, if there's something, are you snoring a lot? If you're not at all, maybe there's an indication there that there's a potential at least for sleep apnea. This watch is not really going to tell you that because it doesn't listen for anything that you're doing while you're sleeping. On the bright side, I will say that battery life holds up pretty well. So by default, it'll last for up to a week. That's assuming that you leave the always on display off. You're using GPS intermittently, you're doing some basic exercise tracking, things like that. Now, if you're doing more of that, then it starts to whittle down. I would say if you're a really heavy user, you should be able to hit 3 days, 2 for sure, but you should be able to hit 3 days, even with heavy usage. Even if you leave the always on display on, then you will probably get to about 3 or 4 days as well if you're not exercising as much. Again, a lot of variables. It's hard for me to quantify every single instance, but I would say between 3 to 7 days based on what kind of usage you're going with, right? And how much the watch is actually on. So how much the screen is actually on, how much you're using the sensors, things like that. If you're using previous straps or bands from the first Sense, they will fit on this like a glove. It is using the same mechanism to lock in, so you have no problem there. That also goes to the Versa 3 and Versa 4, by the way. So if you're kind of sort of crossing over, that's not a problem. You can bring the straps with you and you're fine. So in the end, would I recommend this watch? I don't know. I'm hesitant to. And the reason why is, well, I've probably outlined some of the reasons already in this review, but primarily because it's hard for me to determine who this is truly for. I can see if you're interested in health and wellness primarily, I can see there being some value there, especially if you don't care whether there's the app integration or not. In that sense, I can see how this would be appealing, but it is a pricey smartwatch and it doesn't offer all the features that other smartwatches do, including the integration. So from that standpoint, it's a tough call. And so for that, I don't know. I think you might be better off going with the previous Sense, especially if you want that integration. You're not going to get all the sensory technology that's in here, but you will get a lot of the same things. Or you can go with the Versa 3 or 4. Mind you, the 4 is the same as this in the sense that there's no third-party integration, right? So if you want more of an exercise workout watch, you might want to look in that direction. And that's my review of the Fitbit Sense 2 for the Best Buy blog. I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.